So someone tell me, why did 751 Finns take their own lives last year? Every single year, the United Nations releases a list of the happiest countries on Earth. And every single year, Finland wins, 8 times in a row. 8. Free healthcare, free education, clean air, low corruption, a government that actually works. This isn't a story about a broken country. This is a story about a perfect country with a secret it doesn't want exported. In that same country, suicide rates are among the highest in the developed world. Peru, ranked 63rd happiest in the world, has a suicide rate of just 4.9 per 100,000 people. Finland, ranked number 1, sits at 15.9, more than 3 times higher. In 2023, 751 Finns took their own lives. That is roughly 2 people every single day in a country of just 5.6 million. And approximately 2/3 of those deaths were men. Finland has some of the highest male suicide rates in all of Europe. Perhaps the most alarming number of all, in 2024, Eurostat data placed Finland 4th in all of Europe for suicide rates among young people aged 15 to 19, 15 years old, in the happiest country on Earth. A Finnish psychologist at the National Suicide Prevention Center explained it simply. Society demands and expects a great deal from young people, particularly regarding their studies and financial situation. You must succeed, you must perform, you must be okay, because this is Finland, and Finland is happy. So, how did this happen? How does the world's most admired welfare state end up here? The answer involves several forces, and they have been building for decades. Reason 1. The World Happiness Report is published every year by the United Nations. The score is based on a single survey question. People are asked to imagine a ladder from 0 to 10 and say which step they currently stand on. That is the entire measurement. No one asks Finns if they feel lonely. No one asks if they cry at night. No one asks if they want to be alive next year. They simply ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is your life? Researchers who plotted happiness scores against suicide rates globally found something deeply uncomfortable. The so-called happiest countries had on average suicide rates more than twice as high as the so-called least happy countries. The data suggests the World Happiness Report measures quality of institutions, not the inner lives of people inside them. While Finland was being crowned world's happiest nation for the 8th consecutive time, its economy was quietly collapsing. In 2024, approximately 3,100 Finnish companies went bankrupt. That is 12.4% more than the year before. Businesses still standing were cutting staff. The government, facing a widening budget deficit, was slashing social programs and cutting benefits. By March 2025, Finland's unemployment rate had climbed to 9.5%, up from 8.4% just 1 year earlier. The data suggests the World Happiness Report measures quality of institutions, not the inner lives of people inside them. While Finland was being crowned world's happiest nation for the 8th consecutive time, its economy was quietly collapsing. In 2024, approximately 3,100 Finnish companies went bankrupt. That is 12.4% more than the year before. Businesses still standing were cutting staff. The government, facing a widening budget deficit, was slashing social programs and cutting benefits. By March 2025, Finland's unemployment rate had climbed to 9.5%, up from 8.4% just 1 year earlier.
Economic Research Institute labeled Finland the worst performing economy in the entire Euro area in 2024, the worst in Europe, and the happiest country on Earth. Finns themselves were largely sarcastic about the happiness ranking. Economic recession, mass layoffs, strikes across multiple industries, rising bankruptcies, and the suicide rate ticking back upward. One commentator put it plainly, "What happiness are they talking about? This is perhaps the most deeply rooted force of all." Finland has a national concept called sisu. It means extreme, stoic toughness. You do not complain. You do not show weakness. You endure. In silence. For generations, suffering without speaking was not seen as a problem. It was seen as strength. Men especially were expected to carry it alone, in the dark, and say nothing. Professor Timo Partanen at Finland's National Institute for Health and Welfare identifies the core of the problem as social connection and willingness to seek help, not darkness, not weather, not poverty, connection, and the willingness, or in Finland's case, the reluctance, to ask for it. Finland experiences months of near total darkness in winter, polar nights where the sun barely rises above the horizon, or does not rise at all. This is not a myth. Limited sunlight disrupts sleep cycles, serotonin production, and mood regulation at a biological level. And Finland is vast, rural, and sparsely populated. Many Finns live hours from their nearest community, hours from family hours, from any kind of support structure. When you are isolated, when it is dark, when your culture says you must be strong, and when the system around you begins to crack, the combination is lethal. There is one final force that is perhaps the most insidious of all, and it is invisible. The better your society becomes, the higher the expectations placed on the individuals inside it. When everything around you looks perfect, when your country is literally ranked #1 in the world, and you still feel broken inside, you do not blame the system, you blame yourself. Research published by Oxford University Press in 2025 confirmed that compared to Western Europe as a whole, Finland and Sweden have a higher prevalence of major depressive disorder. Higher. In the world's happiest countries, what is Finland actually doing about this? And is any of it working? Finland's government has invested in expanding mental health services, reducing waiting times for treatment, and increasing access to therapy in schools and workplaces. The Mieliari Suicide Prevention Center runs national programs specifically targeting at-risk groups with a particular focus on young men. Recognizing the alarming data on youth suicide rates, Finland launched targeted early intervention programs in schools inside its most vulnerable regions, catching young people before the crisis deepens. Is it working? The long-term trajectory is actually progress. Finland's suicide rate was once among the highest in the world. In 1990, it stood at 22 per 100,000, one of the 2 highest rates on Earth. Today it sits at 15.9. That is a meaningful reduction over 3 decades. But the most recent data gives reason for concern. After years of gradual decline, the rate ticked upward again in 2023. 751 deaths, 2 every day. Progress is real, but so is the crisis. So where does Finland go from here? Finland is not a failed state. It genuinely has some of the best systems in the world. The education, the healthcare, the infrastructure, the institutions. And unlike many countries facing this kind of crisis, Finland is at least talking about it, measuring it, attempting to address it. The political will is present. The programs exist. The long-term data shows that progress is possible. These are not small things. They are the foundations that make recovery possible. But here is the warning that Finland and every country watching needs to hear clearly. Finland's crisis did not happen overnight. It built quietly over generations through a combination of a culture that rewarded silence over vulnerability, a welfare state that measured institutions instead of loneliness, a world that ranked countries on ladders and declared the winners happy, and perhaps most dangerously, the belief that prosperity protects people from pain. It does not. The lesson of Finland is not that happiness is impossible. The lesson is that happiness cannot be measured in a survey. You cannot build free universities and call that joy. You cannot build clean streets and call that peace of mind. You cannot rank a country #1 and call its people saved. 2 people, every day in paradise. So the question, the one that should matter to every government, every policymaker, every person watching this, if it is happening in Finland, the country with the best schools, the best healthcare, the highest trust in its government, what exactly are we measuring, and who exactly are we leaving behind? Think about that. This was Nordic Exposed. If this story made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like and subscribe for new video every week.